Well, there's not a lot of choices as far as installation goes. It could go in there, but I really don't want to do that. Underneath this seat, there is plenty of room. We are going to make a bracket system. It's going to come off of the back two seat bolts here, mount it right there, and then both power wires can easily come out here to the battery. To do that, we do need to take some measurements, a pad of paper, and a pen. Well, the one secret to designing amp racks that go underneath the seat is to try not to overcomplicate it, that's for sure. And also don't make it as basic as humanly possible. We need screw down points because we need something that's going to hold this in place. We're going to go between these two seat bolts here, which means the widest I'm going to need this is 19.5. What I like to do on the pad of paper is draw what I think is going to be my basic shape first. Which is going to look something like this. There's going to be a taper on the passenger side, just the way it comes in just a little bit. There's some hump there in the way, and then there'll be a taper on this side. We need to add those in. And then we also need to figure out how far back the cut in needs to be, which is where I'm going to start. So that looks like 6 inches in. And we have 2 inches for the pieces that are going underneath the seat. I'm going to make this 16 inches, so it's going to be 19.5 by 16 inches. So that's 3 inches. Just change that to 4 inches, and then we'll taper it in. 2. Let's see, so that is gonna 7 inches. Alright, so I've come up with this weird design here. I'm just gonna cut it out and we'll take a look at it. Here's the bracket from the back side underneath these two rear arms of the seat. There's these giant washers or risers, I should say, that are underneath this seat. So if we look at how big these holes are, the seat is actually still touching the ground. The material that this is made out of is sitting around the outside of that washer, and it's just barely lifted up. So once we tighten the seat down, it'll actually compress the material. There's still a gap here, so that vent can blow up underneath, and the amp will sit just like that. So looking at it, tapers in to avoid all of this area, which we don't need. It's sitting crooked right now because the seat pulled it back when it flips up. But this will be the working area that we have for the amplifier. Now for the fun part, which is get it back over to here on the bench. Let's wire this thing up. Let's take a look at the power that is going to be going into this for our front stage. This is the XR401-4 4-channel Kenwood XR401 reference series amplifier. What does that mean? This is the best that Kenwood makes. High-res audio. We're gonna have a high-res audio deck. It's just this is it. This is their flagships. Taking a look at the back side, has some of the information on it that we all know and love. 75 watts by 4, 100 watts by 4 at 2 ohm. You can bridge this, get 200 watts by 2. It does come with a bass knob. Has speaker level input along with signal sense. We'll be using RCAs. Size wise, this thing is tiny. 8 11/16 by 6 5/8 by 1 3/8 tall. Skinny. When we first open it up, we have a couple Allen keys, some screws, and a nut for the bass knob. This is the bass knob here. We're not going to be using this because we're not using it as a sub amplifier. And here we have the amplifier. The screws for the power wire are covered underneath this little guy right here. Down inside are Allen screws. That's why it comes with the long Allen wrenches in the box. I like to put my screws back into the top of the amplifier until I'm done. That way I don't lose them. As far as this little panel here, I'll also go put this back in the box for the meantime. Taking a look at the side of the amplifier that has all our inputs on it, you have channels A, channels B, which is basically front and rear, or in this case dash and door. 30 amps of current draw, power, remote, ground, left positive, negative, right negative, then positive. Bridged is left positive, right negative. Channel B goes the exact same way. Flipping it over onto the back side. There's tons of switches and dials on the sides of this amplifier to do a ton of different things. First off, input selection. You have A, B, and A. Because we're going to be using this amplifier to power the whole front stage, we only need one RCA in, which is A. So we can select A. We have our two gain controls, both A and B. In this case, A is going to be the dash speaker, B is going to be the 6x9s in the door. We have filters, low pass, off, and high pass, and low pass, off, and high pass for B. The remote level control will plug in here, and that's on channel B if you decide you want to use half of this to power the subwoofer. The next set of switches are frequency range, low and high. Sometimes on the show we talk about a 10-time multiplier switch is what you need in order to do a tweeter. This has it, and they just call it low or high. Low is going to be standard. High is going to be a 10-time multiplier switch, which is going to take the standard dial from 50 to 200, from 2.5K to 10K. Now, when you select that on channel B and you select low pass, what it'll do is it'll create a low pass crossover that can now be from 2.5 to 10K. So if you're gonna do like a set of tweeters on channel A, you can do a set of mid on channel B, and you can dial in that crossover point that you're looking for in the middle, and then you would use your radio's 80 Hertz high pass crossover to be the bottom for that mid-range. Allows you to do a lot of adjustability between the two. It's kind of cool. The amplifier is screwed into place. This is how it's going to sit, back of the car, front of the car. I've prepped the wiring that I need for this. I have a set of 6-foot RCAs that are plugged in. They are plugged into A because that is the only input we're going to need to feed the two outputs for dash and door. Remote turn on wire first. The mid-range and the dash, we're going to use the blue stripe wire for. We're doing speakers, we have a color code. If it's the standard color, gray, white, green, purple are always going to be the same, but the second color, which is the ground, will change depending on what it is we're doing. Black is always a mid-bass and or that color for that channel specifically. Blue or brown is a mid-range, and then yellow, orange, or red could be a tweeter. Door speakers are in. Moving on to the ground. The last connection will be the positive. That is the wiring that needs to go in the amplifier. Now it needs to turn directions and kind of go places. What I mean by that is these wires here have to go this way, and these wires here can just journey on straight. This is going to turn and go up into the center console that's located right here. These are going to come straight and go into a hole in the carpet that's there. These are going to turn like this in behind that carpet. I just need to drill some holes so I can tie the wire into place. And then we'll be using the wire ruler to make our holes. With those made, I like to use 4-inch zip ties. Now I have multiple layers of holes that I just drilled, so I want to make sure that my little nub here is towards this way or towards that way, so I can keep the hole free for the next one. And with all the zip ties in place, our wiring is all tucked in the direction it needs to go. I've also taped up all the signal wiring so that it's safe and secure up into the dash. The whole cable and our power and ground are zip tied down into place. I've replaced the cover over the screw holes. The only step now is to, well, let's get it into the car.